Welcome to online CT class. So in this class we will discuss MCQs on dual nature of radiation and matter, atoms and nucleus. So first let us take MCQs on dual nature of radiation and matter. So first question, a photoelectric cell is illuminated by a point source 1 meter away. When the source is shifted to 2 meter, then each emitted electron carries 1/4 of the initial energy. Number of electrons emitted is half the initial energy. Each emitted electron carries half the initial energy. Number of electrons emitted is quarter of the initial number. So here you are changing the distance of the source. By changing the distance, you are changing the intensity. We know that intensity of light is inversely proportional to square of the distance. So it is from a point source, so it should obey inverse square law. So because of this, the final intensity will be 1/4 of the, see, distance is doubled, so intensity should become 1/4 of the initial intensity. If intensity is made 1/4, then number of electrons emitted will become 1/4. Energy of each electron will not change. Energy of each electron depends only on frequency, not on intensity. So because of reduction in intensity, there will be reduction in number of electrons, hence there will be reduction in photocurrent. So it should be option D. Yes, moving on to next one. According to Einstein's photoelectric equation, the plot of kinetic energy of emitted photoelectrons from a metal versus frequency of incident radiation gives straight line whose slope depends on nature of the metal used, depends on intensity of radiation, depends both on intensity of radiation and metal used, is the same for all metals and independent of intensity of radiation. So if you consider the graph of kinetic energy of emitted electrons against the frequency of incident radiation, so you will get a straight line. So the graph will be a straight line with positive x-intercept and negative y-intercept. This is what you get. So this is kinetic energy, this is frequency. So this corresponding value will give you threshold frequency and this will give you work function. Now the slope of this gives you Planck's constant, which is constant, which is a universal constant. So it doesn't depend on metals, what kind of metal you have used, or it doesn't depend on intensity of radiation. So it is same for all the metals and it is independent of intensity of radiation. So it should be option D. Moving further, in photoelectric effect, the number of electrons ejected per second is proportional to wavelength of light, proportional to intensity of light, proportional to work function of the metal, proportional to frequency of light. See, number of electrons ejected per second, this decides the photocurrent. And according to laws of photoemission, photocurrent is directly proportional to intensity of radiation. So number of electrons ejected per second is proportional to intensity of radiation. That is option B. So move on to next one. A photon of energy 4 electron volt is incident on a metal surface whose work function is 2 electron volt. The minimum reverse potential to be applied for stopping the emission of the electron is. So minimum reverse potential to be applied, you have to calculate. That means you need to find stopping potential. What they have given here is photon has energy 4 electron volt and work function is 2 electron volt. So first find the kinetic energy of the electron. Kinetic energy in electron volt will give you stopping potential in volt. So according to photoelectric equation, energy of incident photon should be equal to work function plus maximum kinetic energy of photoelectrons. So energy is, they have given it is 4 electron volt, work function is given 2 electron volt. So kinetic energy you can write it as E into Vs, where Vs is stopping potential. Now E into Vs is equal to 2 electron volt. So Vs will be equal to 2 volt. Remember, stopping potential in volt is equal to maximum kinetic energy of photoelectrons in electron volt. So maximum kinetic energy in electron volt will be equal to stopping potential in volt. So if maximum kinetic energy is 2 electron volt, stopping potential will be 2 volt. So that should be option A. Yes, we'll go on to next one. Figure shows the variation of photocurrent with anode potential for a photosensitive surface for 3 different radiations. Let IA, IB and IC be the intensities of FA intensities, and FA, FB, FC be the frequencies of the curves A, B and C respectively. Then what is the correct relation? So here this particular point gives you stopping potential for A and B. So hence what we can conclude, stopping potential is same for both these values, but intensities are different, IA, IB. So these two must have same frequency. So what you can conclude is FA is equal to FB, because stopping potential depends only on frequency. So FA is equal to FB, you can conclude this. But this is saturation current. Saturation current for A is this much, saturation current for B is this much. So saturation current for C and B are equal. Saturation current for C and B are equal, but saturation current for A and B are different. So IA is not equal to IB. Saturation current is directly proportional to intensity. So IA is not equal to IB. IB is greater than IA. So the correct option will be FA is equal to FB. IA is not equal to IB. And notice one thing, here there is another option, IB is equal to IC, that is correct. IB is equal to IC is correct, but FB is not equal to FC. FB is corresponding to this, FC is corresponding to this stopping potential. So this is not correct. So that's why option D is not correct, only option A is correct. We shall move on to next one. Work functions for metals A, B and C are respectively 1.92 electron volt, 2 electron volt and 5 electron volt according to Einstein's equation. The metals which will emit photoelectrons for a radiation of wavelength 4100 angstrom is. So calculate the energy corresponding to this particular wavelength. So they have given work functions for metals A, B and C is 1.92, 2 and 5. So let us calculate energy corresponding to this. So energy is equal to Hc by lambda. This will give you energy in joule. So in order to get it in electron volt, divided by E. So that will be 6.625 into 10 power minus 34 into 3 into 10 to the power 8 divided by lambda is given 4100 angstrom into 10 power minus 10 into 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. So if you consider 6.625 into 3, it is about 19.75 or 19.875, then divided by 1.6, so that will give you somewhere around 12. So if you calculate these values, see these are the constants h, c and e, and this is in angstrom, so this 10 power 10 also you can take. So if you take these things outside, what we'll get is, we'll get 12420. So this is what you'll get, divided by 4100. So I'll get 12420 divided by 4100. So calculate this. So this will give you roughly 3 electron volt. Now look at the options. So A is 1.92, B is 2 electron volt, C is 5 electron volt. This is the work function. Now the energy of the incident photon is 3 electron volt. So 3 electron volt means it is greater than 1.92 and 2. So it will cause photo emission in both A and B, but not in C. So it should be option C. Yes, we'll proceed to next one. Two identical photocathodes receive light of frequency nu1 and nu2. If the velocities of photoelectrons of mass m coming out are v1 and v2 respectively, then v1 minus v2 is equal to 2h by m into nu1 minus nu2 whole to the power half v1 square minus v2 square is equal to 2h by m nu1 minus nu2. v1 plus v2 is equal to 2h by m nu1 minus nu2 whole to the power half v1 square plus v2 square is equal to 2h by m nu1 minus nu2. So we have to find the relation between v1, v2 and nu1 and nu2. So the frequencies that are incidented are nu1 and nu2, and corresponding velocities are v1 and v2. So let us write photoelectric equation for the two metals. So for the first surface, h nu1 is equal to h nu0 plus half m v1 square. So they have given they are identical photocathodes. So since they are identical photocathodes, nu0 will be same for both of them. Now for the second one, h nu2 is equal to h nu0, same h nu0 plus half m v2 square. Now subtract these two, we'll get h into nu1 minus nu2 is equal to half m into v1 square minus v2 square. Now send this half and m to this side, we'll get v1 square minus v2 square. We'll write this first, that is equal to 2h by m into nu1 minus nu2. So that is option B. Yes, we'll move on to next one. The kinetic energy of electron is E when the incident light has wavelength lambda. To increase the kinetic energy to 2E, the incident light must have wavelength hc by E lambda minus hc lambda by E lambda plus h lambda divided by E lambda plus h lambda divided by E lambda minus hc. So in this problem what they have given is kinetic energy is E when incident light is having wavelength lambda. Now in order to increase the kinetic energy to 2E, what must be the incident wavelength? So write the photoelectric equation for the first case. So when incident wavelength is lambda, energy of radiation is hc by lambda, that is equal to h nu naught plus kinetic energy is given, it is E. Now let us say new wavelength required is lambda dash, that is equal to work function is same h nu naught plus new kinetic energy has to be 2E. So from this equation you can write hc by lambda minus E is equal to h nu naught. Similarly from this you can write hc by lambda dash minus 2E is equal to h nu naught. So now right hand sides are same, you can equate the left hand sides. hc by lambda minus E is equal to hc by lambda dash minus 2E. So now we need to solve for lambda dash. Send this 2E to this side, it will become plus 2E. So it will be hc by lambda plus E is equal to hc by lambda dash. So take LCM here. hc plus E lambda divided by lambda is equal to hc by lambda dash. So this implies lambda dash is equal to hc lambda divided by E lambda plus hc. So this will be the wavelength required. So that should be option B. We shall proceed to next one. When a metallic surface is illuminated with monochromatic light of wavelength lambda, stopping potential for photoelectric current is 3 V0. When the same metallic surface is illuminated with wavelength 2 lambda, stopping potential is V0. Then threshold wavelength for the surface is. So write photoelectric equation for it. When illuminated with lambda, energy of radiation is hc by lambda, that should be equal to work function plus 3 EV0 because stopping potential is V0, 3 V0. Now when it is eliminated by 2 lambda, hc by 2 lambda is equal to w plus ev naught. So now we have to calculate w from these two equations. So multiply this 2 to this side, hc by lambda is equal to 2w minus 2ev naught, sorry, plus 2ev naught. Now let us call this as 1, this as 2. Now consider 2 minus 1. So what do we get? Or else we can just equate the RHS. So instead of subtracting, if we just equate the RHS, w plus 3ev naught is equal to 2w plus 2ev naught. So I will get w is equal to ev naught. So from this, what do we get? Substitute this in this equation. hc by lambda is equal to ev naught plus 3ev naught. In first equation, if I substitute, so hc by lambda is equal to 4 ev naught. So ev naught is equal to hc by 4 lambda. So ev naught is nothing but hc by lambda naught because it is work function. So that is equal to hc by 4 lambda. So I can conclude lambda naught is equal to 4 lambda. So this is threshold wavelength for the metal surface. So that is option B. Yes, we shall move on to next one. Radiations of 2 photons of energy twice and 5 times the work function of the metal are incident successively on the metal surface. The ratio of the maximum velocity of the photoelectrons emitted in the two cases will be. So what they have given here is there are 2 photons, one is having energy twice that of the work function, other has the energy 5 times the work function. They are incidented. So you need to calculate the ratio of maximum velocity of photoelectrons in the two cases. V1 by V2 you have to calculate. So let us write photoelectric equation for both of them. So in the first case, energy emitted is 2 times the work function. So incident energy to W is equal to W plus half m V1 square. In the second case, energy that is incidented is 5W, 5 times the work function, that is equal to W plus half m V2 square. Now from this what you can write, W is equal to half m V1 square From this 4W is equal to half m v2 square. Now let us call this as 1, this as 2. So divide these two, what do we get? 1 by 4 is equal to v1 by v2 whole square. So v1 by v2 should be equal to 1 by 2, that is 1 is to 2, that is option B. We shall move on to next one. The de Broglie wavelength of a particle moving with a velocity 2.25 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second is equal to the wavelength of a photon. The ratio of kinetic energy of particle to the energy of photon is, given velocity of light is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. So what they have given here is de Broglie wavelength of a particle traveling with velocity 2.25 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second is equal to wavelength of a photon. We need to find ratio of kinetic energy of particle to the energy of photon. So first of all, de Broglie wavelength of the particle lambda is given by h by mv, that is equal to h divided by root of 2mk, where k is kinetic energy. So square this, we get lambda square is equal to h square divided by 2mk. So if you solve for k from this, k is equal to h square divided by 2m lambda square. This is kinetic energy of the particle. Now if we consider for photon, wavelength of photon is given by E is equal to hc by lambda. So lambda is equal to hc by E. Now in the given problem, what they have given is de Broglie wavelength of particle moving with this velocity is equal to wavelength of photon. So the two wavelengths are equal, that is what they have given. Okay, so let us calculate the ratio of kinetic energy of the particle to energy of the photon. So k divided by E will give you h square by 2m lambda square into lambda by hc. So that will give you h divided by 2mc lambda. Now k by E is equal to h divided by 2mc into lambda is de Broglie wavelength, so you can take it as h by mv. So mm get cancelled, hh get cancelled. What we get is v by 2c. So we got K by E is equal to V by 2C. So substitute for V and C. V is given 2.25 into 10 to the power 8 divided by 2 into 3 into 10 to the power 8. So that will give you 3 by 8. So ratio of kinetic energies is 3 by 8, that is option B. We'll move on to next one. For a given kinetic energy, which of the following has the smallest de Broglie wavelength? So de Broglie wavelength lambda is given by h by mv. So you can write this as h divided by root of 2m k, where k is kinetic energy of the particle. So what they have given here is there are 4 particles given: electron, proton, deuteron and alpha particle. So for given kinetic energy, which among these has smallest de Broglie wavelength? So if kinetic energy is same for all of them, then lambda is inversely proportional to root of m. So whichever has the highest mass, that should have lowest value of de Broglie wavelength. So the given particles are electron, proton, deuteron and alpha particle. So out of these 4, the heaviest is alpha particle, so it is having 4 units of mass. Deuteron has 2 units of mass, proton has 1 unit and electron is very light particle. So whichever has highest mass, that should have least wavelength. So the smallest de Broglie wavelength is for alpha particle. So it should be option D. Okay, we shall proceed further. An electron of mass me and proton of mass mp are moving with same speed. The ratio of their de Broglie wavelengths is. So de Broglie wavelength of electron to de Broglie wavelength of proton, this is what you have to calculate. So it should be h by m e v into mp v divided by h. This should be the ratio. So h and v get cancelled, they are moving with same speed. So this turns out to be mp by me. So mp by me is 1836. So lambda e by lambda p is 1836. So proton is 1836 times heavier than electron. So it should be option C. Yes, we shall proceed further. Kinetic energy of an electron gets tripled, then de Broglie wavelength associated with it changes by factor. So kinetic energy de Broglie wavelength relation is lambda is equal to h divided by root of 2m_k. Now if this kinetic energy is made 3 times, new wavelength will be h divided by 2m3k under root. Now this 3 can be taken outside, it will be 1 by root 3 into h divided by root of 2m_k. Now this is nothing but original wavelength, so it will be lambda by root 3. So it changes by a factor. What is the extra term? 1 by root 3. So this is the factor. So that is option C. we shall move on to next one. The ratio of de Broglie wavelength of an alpha particle and proton of same kinetic energy is. So, if both alpha particle and electron have same kinetic energy, what is their ratio of their de Broglie wavelengths? So, we know that lambda is equal to h divided by root of 2mk. So, when kinetic energy is constant, lambda is inversely proportional to root m or lambda e by lambda p. This is what we need to calculate. That should be equal to root of mp by me. So, mp is mass of, they have given alpha particle, so lambda alpha, so m alpha by me. They have given alpha particle and proton. Okay, so lambda is equal to h by root of 2mk. So when kinetic energy is constant, lambda is inversely proportional to root m. So you need to find lambda alpha by lambda p, that is equal to root of mp by m alpha. So that should be root of mp is, let us say it is m, then m alpha is 4m. So that will become 1 by 2. That is option A. Yes, we shall move on to next one. If the linear momentum of a particle is 2.2 into 10 to the power 4 kg meter per second, then what will be its de Broglie wavelength? So, de Broglie wavelength of a particle is given by lambda is equal to h by p, where p is linear momentum. So, they have given momentum, just calculate wavelength. So, h is 6.625 into 10 to the power minus 34 divided by p is given 2.2 into 10 to the power 4. So, roughly this is 3 into 10 to the power minus 30. Meters. So that should be the answer. So option given is wrong here. So answer should be 3 into 10 to the power minus 30. So now we'll move on to the next chapter, that is atoms. The radius of a first orbit of electron in hydrogen atom is 5.3 into 10 to the power minus 11 meter. Then radius of second orbit must be, see, radius of nth orbit in hydrogen atom is given by n square h square epsilon naught divided by pi m e square, that is equal to 1 for hydrogen atom. So Rn is directly proportional to n square. So from this you can say R2 by R1 is equal to 2 square by 1 square. So radius of second orbit R2 should be equal to 4 times R1, that is equal to 4 times what they have given, 5.3 into 10 to the power minus 11. So that should be 21.2 into 10 to the power minus 11 meters. This should be the radius of the orbit. So that is option C. Yes, we'll move on to next one. If R is Rydberg constant for hydrogen, the wave number of the first line in the Lyman series is. So, wave number they are asking. Okay, so wave number is given by 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. So for Lyman series, n1 is equal to 1, and for first line, that is what they have asked for. So for the first line, n2 should be equal to 2. So if I substitute that, 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by 1 minus 1 by 2 square is 4. So that turns out to be 3 by 4. So 3R by 4. So this will be the wave number. That is option D. 1 by lambda is only wave number. Okay, proceeding further. In the Bohr's model of hydrogen atom, let R, V and E represent radius of the orbit, the speed of electron and the total energy of the electron respectively. Then which of the quantities is proportional to the quantum number n? So R is radius, V is velocity, E is energy. So we know that R is proportional to n square, energy is proportional to 1 by n square, and velocity is proportional to 1 by n. Now if I take V into R, that will be proportional to n. V into R, that will be proportional to n. So that is option C. We'll move on to next one. As the electron in Bohr orbit of hydrogen atom passes from n is equal to 2 to n is equal to 1, kinetic energy and potential energy U change by a factor of. So we know that kinetic energy is inversely proportional to n square. So if I call kinetic energy as K, K1 by K2 is equal to 2 square by 1 square, that is equal to 4. So K1 is equal to 4 K2. Then if you consider potential energy, this is also proportional to 1 by n square. So potential energy is, if I call it as U, U1 by U2 is also equal to 2 square by 1 square. So that is equal to 4. So U1 is equal to 4 u2. So both kinetic energy as well as potential energy change by a factor of 4. So both of them will change by factor of 4. So it will become 4k and 4u. So it should be option C. Shall move on to next one. Hydrogen H, deuterium D, singly ionized helium He plus, and doubly ionized lithium Li2 plus all have one electron around the nucleus. Consider n is equal to 2 to n is equal to 1 transition. The wavelength of the emitted radiations are lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3 and lambda 4 respectively. Then approximately which of the relation is correct? That is what they are asking. So lambda 1 is for hydrogen, lambda 2 is for deuterium, lambda 3 is for helium plus, and lambda 4 is for doubly ionized lithium. Now what is the relation connecting them? So we know that 1 by lambda is equal to z square r into 1 by 1 square minus 1 by 2 square for the given case. So from this what you can conclude is z square into lambda is equal to constant, because this is constant, this is constant. So z square into lambda is constant. So 1 square into lambda 1 should be equal to 2 square into lambda 2, that is equal to 3 square into lambda 3, and so on. So this implies lambda 1 is equal to yes, second one is deuterium, so its z value is 1 only, so should be lambda 1, lambda 2 is 1 square only, 1 square into lambda 2, this will be 2 square into lambda 3 and 3 square into lambda 4. So this will be lambda 1, that is equal to lambda 2, that is equal to 4 lambda 3, that is equal to 9 lambda 4. So that is option C. So this is for hydrogen, this is for deuterium, this is for helium, this is for lithium. Okay, we shall move on to next one. If doubly ionized lithium atom is hydrogen-like with atomic number 3, the wavelength of radiation required to excite electron in lithium 2 plus from first to the third Bohr orbit, and the number of different spectral lines observed in the emission spectrum of the above excited system are. So first you need to calculate in doubly ionized lithium atom what is the wavelength of radiation required to excite electron from ground state to the third Bohr orbit. Then how many spectral lines will be emitted when it comes back. So we know that 1 by lambda is equal to z square r into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. This is valid for both emission spectrum as well as absorption spectrum. So in this case this is 9, 3 square is 9, r into 1 divided by 1 square minus 1 divided by 3 square. This is 1 by lambda. So 1 by lambda is equal to 9 into r 1 minus 1 by 9. So that will become 9r into 8 by 9. So lambda will be equal to 1 by 8r. So that is equal to 1 divided by 8 into 1.097 into 10 to the power 7. That's the value of r. So this will be roughly, if you take it as 1.1, so 1.1 into 8 is 8.8. So it will be 10 to the power minus 7 divided by 8.8. So that will give you 114 angstrom. So this is wavelength. Now it is going from first excited state to third excited state. So when it comes back, number of spectral lines that is emitted is given by n is equal to n into n minus 1 divided by 2, that is 3 into 2 divided by 2, that is equal to 3. So number of spectral lines emitted is 3 and wavelength emitted is 114. So it should be option B. So we shall proceed further. If the series limit wavelength of Lyman series for hydrogen atom is 912 angstrom, then the series limit wavelength for Balmer series of hydrogen atom is. So options are in terms of 912. So series limit for Lyman series limit means for Lyman series n1 is equal to 1, n2 should be equal to infinity for series limit. So 1 by lambda is equal to r into 1 by 1 square minus 1 by infinity. So 1 by lambda is equal to r. So lambda is equal to 1 by r, that is equal to 912. They have given this. This is 912 angstrom. Now for Balmer series, n1 is equal to 2, and for series limit n2 is equal to infinity. So 1 by lambda will be equal to r into, so let us say this is lambda dash, that is r into 1 by 4 minus 1 by infinity. So that will become r by 4. So lambda dash will be equal to 4 divided by r. So that is 1 by r is 912. So it should be 912 into 4 angstrom. That is option C. Shall move on to next one. A hydrogen atom and a lithium 2 plus ion are both in second excited state. If LH and LLI are their respective electronic angular momenta and EH and ELI are their respective energies, then what is the relation between them? That is what they are asking. So what they have given here is one is hydrogen atom and other one is lithium 2 plus ion. So both are in second excited state. So angular momentum mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. So angular momentum of the electron depends only on n. So n is same for both of them. So here it is in second excited state. For second excited state n is equal to 3. So it should be 3h by 2 pi. So this is true for hydrogen also. This is true for lithium also. For both of them they are in second excited state. So LH should be equal to LLI. So that is first condition. So this is what we have got. Now coming to respective energies. So if I take the magnitude of energy, it is proportional to z square, mz square e to the power 4. So it is proportional to z square. We are taking only magnitude of energy. So in the options also they have given that only. So more is the value of z, more will be the energy. So clearly EH is less than ELI. So from these two what we can conclude is LH is equal to LLI and EH is less than ELI. So that should be option B. So that is it. We shall go on to next one. Energy levels A, B and C of a certain atom corresponding to increasing values of energy, that is A is less than EB less than EC. If lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3 are the wavelengths of radiation corresponding to transition from C to B, B to A and C to A respectively, then which of the following relations is correct? Now let us draw the energy level diagram for it. So A is the lowermost level, so this is A, next one is B, next one is C, that is what they have given. This is C, this is B. Now transition from C to B gives you lambda 1, this gives you lambda 1, B to A gives you lambda 2, C to A gives you lambda 3. This is what they have given. Now energies corresponding to them, if I call them as E1, E2, E3, then clearly E3 should be equal to E1 plus E2. So substitute for E1, E2 and E3, Hc by lambda 3 should be equal to Hc by lambda 1 plus Hc by lambda 2. So 1 by lambda 3 is equal to 1 by lambda 1 plus 1 by lambda 2. So I'll get lambda 3 is equal to lambda 1 lambda 2 divided by lambda 1 plus lambda 2. That is option B. Yes, we shall move on to next one. The orbital frequency of an electron in the hydrogen atom is proportional to n cube n to the power minus 3 n to the power 0. So You know that time period of revolution of electron is 4 epsilon naught square n cube h cube divided by m z square e to the power 4. So time period is directly proportional to n cube. So frequency should be inversely proportional to n cube, or it should be directly proportional to n to the power minus 3. That should be option B. Yes, we shall move on to next one. Hydrogen atom from excited state comes to ground state by emitting a photon of wavelength lambda. If R is the Rydberg constant, the principal quantum number n of the excited state is. So what they have given here is, so it is from excited state comes to the ground state by emitting photon of wavelength lambda. So R is Rydberg constant. What is the principal quantum number of the excited state? So just write the wave number formula. 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. Now they have given it is hydrogen atom, so it should be R only. Now n1 is ground state, so it should be 1 minus, we don't know what is this, let it be n. We need to find n. Now send this to this side. 1 by lambda R is equal to 1 minus 1 by n square. So solve for n square, so simply n. So 1 by n square is equal to 1 minus 1 by lambda R. So 1 by n square is equal to lambda R. If I take it as LCM, it will be lambda R minus 1. So n square is equal to lambda R divided by lambda R minus 1. N is equal to square root of lambda R divided by lambda R minus 1. That is option A. Okay, we shall move on to next one. If the electron in hydrogen atom jumps from third to second orbit, the wavelength of emitted radiation in terms of Rydberg constant is. So transition is from third to second orbit. So we know that 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by n1 square minus 1 by n2 square. So 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by 4 minus 1 by 9. 1 by lambda is equal to R into 36 will be LCM. So this will become 9 minus 4, 5. So lambda is equal to 36 by 5R. That is option A. So that completes problems on atoms. Now we'll move on to next chapter, that is nuclei. The nuclear radius of nucleus with nucleon number 16 is 3 into 10 power minus 15 meter. The nuclear radius of a nucleus with nucleon number 128 is. So we know that nuclear radius is proportional to cube root of the mass number, a to the power 1 by 3. So R2 by R1 is equal to A2 by A1 whole to the power 1 by 3. So R2 is equal to A2 by A1 whole to the power 1 by 3 into R1. Now A2 is given 128, A1 is given it is 16 to the power half into R1 is given 3 into 10 power minus 15. So R2 will be equal to 128 by 16 is 8, 8 to the power 1 by 3, that is cube root of 8 into 3 into 10 to the power minus 15. Cube root of 8 is 2, so it is 2 into 3 into 10 power minus 15 meter, that is 6 into 10 power minus 15 meter. This is R2. So that should be option C. So we shall move on to next one. A particle moving with velocity 1/10 the speed of light will cross a nucleus in about. So approximately how much time it will take to cross a nucleus. So nucleus diameter is of the order of 10 power minus 15 meter. So in order to cover at 10 power minus 15 meter, if it is traveling at 1/10 the speed of light, how much time it will take? Time taken will be equal to distance by velocity, that is 10 to the power minus 15 divided by 3 into 10 to the power 8 divided by 10, 1/10 the speed of light. So that will be 10 power minus 15 divided by 3 into 10 to the power 7. So 10 power 7, if I take to numerator, it will be 10 power minus 22 divided by 3. So this will be 3 into 10 to the power minus 21 second. So roughly it is 10 power minus 21 seconds. So order is 10 power minus 21 second. That is option D. Okay, we shall move on to next one. A nucleus splits into two parts having radii in the ratio 1:2. Their velocities are in the ratio. So radii are in the ratio 1:2. What will be the velocities ratio? So from law of conservation of momentum, we know that m1 v1 plus m2 v2, this is final momentum, should be equal to 0 because initial momentum was 0. So from this what we can conclude, m1 v1 is equal to minus m2 v2. So v1 by v2 is equal to minus m2 by m1. So this is what we can get. Now we know that radius is directly proportional to a to the power 1 by 3. So this implies a is directly proportional to r cube. So a1 by a2 is equal to r1 by r2 whole cube. So that is equal to, here it is given 1:2 is the radius ratio. So 1 by 2 whole cube, that will be 1 by 8. So a1 by a2 is 1 by 8. So A1 by A2 can be written as M1 by M2. More is the mass number, more will be the mass. So A1 by A2 is 1 by 8. So that is approximately M1 by M2. So what we get here is V1 by V2 from this equation. V1 by V2 is equal to M1 by M2 is 1 by 8. M2 by M1 is 8. So we can ignore the negative sign. So numerical value is V1 by V2 is 8. So it should be option A. So negative sign can be ignored in this. So the answer should be 8. It is option A. We shall move on to next one. Mass of proton is 1.00727825 units and mass of neutron is 1.008665 unit. Then binding energy per nucleon of chlorine 35 if its mass is 34.980 unit is. So we need to find binding energy per nucleon for chlorine. So to find binding energy, first find mass defect delta M, that is equal to Z times MP plus A minus Z times Mn minus mass of the nucleus. So Z is 17 into 1.007825 plus, so this is A minus Z is 18 into 1.008665 minus this they have given 34.980. So just calculate this. So you will get it to be 0.30899 atomic mass unit. Delta M is this. See, notice one thing here. Delta M you directly obtaining atomic mass unit, so multiply by 931 MeV to get the energy. So binding energy EB is equal to delta M into 931 MeV. So that will be 0.30899 into 931. So this will give you 287.67 MeV. So this is binding energy. Now binding energy per nucleon EBN is EB divided by A. So that is 287.67 divided by 35. So that should be equal to 8.2 MeV. That is option D. So it's just a question of calculation, how fast you will be able to do it. Approximately also you can do it. You need not to go for exact values. This should be option B, not D. Option D is kilo electron volt. Here we got it in million electron volt. So it should be option B. Okay, we shall move on to next one. Find the binding energy of alpha particle from the following data. Mass of helium nucleus is 4.001265. Mass of proton is 1.007277. Mass of neutron is 1.00866. Take 1 MeV is 931.5 MeV. So you need to find binding energy of alpha particle. So to find the binding energy of alpha particle, what you have to do, just like how we proceeded in the previous problem, same way. Delta M mass defect is equal to 2 mp plus 2 mn minus mass of the nucleus. That should be 2 into 1.007277 plus 1.00866 minus 4.001265. That is equal to 0.030609 atomic mass units. So binding energy is EB is equal to delta M into, they only have given 931.5 MeV. So that is 0.03069 0609 into 931.5. So that will turn out to be 28.512 MeV. So this should be binding energy. That is option C. So we shall move on to next one. Two protons are kept at a separation of 40 angstrom. Fn is the nuclear force and Fe is the electrostatic force between them. Then Fn is very much less than Fe, Fn is approximately equal to Fe, Fn is very much greater than Fe, and Fn is equal to Fe. See, inside the nucleus, if you consider any two protons, they repel each other with a very large force. So in that case, the nuclear force binds them together. So in that case, nuclear force must be much greater than the electrostatic force of repulsion between them. But here, look at the data. The two protons are not inside the nucleus. They are kept at a separation of 40 angstrom. 40 angstrom is 40 times the size of an atom. So at this distance, nuclear forces will be 0. So they are not at all there. So electrostatic force should be much greater than the nuclear force, or nuclear forces must be very much less than electrostatic force. It should be option A, because at such large distance, nuclear forces do not act. They are short range forces. So it should be option A. Okay, we shall proceed to next one. The main sources of energy in the sun and the stars are fission and fusion reactions, fusion reaction, none of these. So in case of stars, the only thing that is possible is nuclear fusion. So it should be option B. Yes. So now we'll move on to the next concept in nucleus, that is radioactivity. So the activity of a radioactive element is decreased to 1/3 of the original activity on lapse of 9 years. What will be the activity after 18 years? So after 9 years, activity reduces to 1/3. After 18 years, what it will happen? So that is what they are asking. So Initial activity, let it be I naught. After 9 years, it reduces to I naught by 3. Now what they are asking is what happens after 18 years. That means from here again 9 years. So this time interval is same. From here to here it became 1/3. So from here to here also it will become 1/3. So it will become 1/3 of I naught by 3, that is I naught by 9. So that is option C. So notice one thing, this is how the radioactive decay happens. For equal intervals of time, by what fraction it has reduced, by same fraction or same factor it will reduce. As we shall proceed further, the half-life of radium is 1600 years. The fraction of sample of radium that would remain after 6400 years is. So we know that number of atoms remaining after time t or n half-lives is given by n naught by 2 to the power n, where n is number of half-lives elapsed. Here half-life is given, it is 1600 years. So time elapsed is 6400 years. That means n is equal to 4 half-lives. So number of half-lives elapsed is 4. So what fraction of the sample is remaining means n by n naught, that is equal to 1 by 2 to the power 4, that is 1 by 16. So that should be option D. Yes, we'll move on to next one. Half-life of radioactive radon is 3.8 days. The time at the end of which 1 by 20th of the radon sample will remain undecayed is. So you need to calculate the time after which the sample becomes 1 by 20th of initial. So we know that n is equal to n naught divided by 2 to the power n. So n should be 1 by 20th of n naught, should be equal to n naught by 2 to the power n. So what do you get? N naught get cancelled. 2 to the power n should be equal to 20. So 2 to the power n should be equal to 20 means n should be lying between 4 and 5. So if n is equal to 4, then time taken should be n times half-life. Half-life is 3.8 days. So it should be 4 into 3.8, that is 15.2 days. If n is equal to 5, time taken should be 5 into 3.8, that should be 19 days. So the answer to this should lie between 15.2 and 19. So one that satisfies this is 16.5 days. So that is option B. Only option which lies between these two limits is 16.5 days. That is option B. Yes, we shall move on to next one. After an interval of 1 day, 1 by 16th of initial number of radioactive material remains in sample, then its half-life is. So here time elapsed is 1 day. That's what they have given. So n is equal to 1 by 16th of n naught. So we know that n is equal to n naught divided by 2 to the power n. So now let us calculate how many half-lives are elapsed. So this is 1 by 16th n naught is equal to n naught by 2 to the power n. So n naught get cancelled. 2 to the power n is equal to 16, or 2 to the power n is equal to 2 to the power 4, which implies n is equal to 4. So number of half-lives elapsed is 4. So t is equal to 4 times half-life, that is equal to 1 day. So t should be equal to 1 by 4th of a day. 1 by 4th of a day means it is 6 hours. That is option A. Okay, we shall move on to next one. Mean life of a radioactive element is 1 year. Then its half-life is. So half-life is given by 0.693 divided by lambda, where lambda is decay constant. Mean life is given by 1 by lambda. So where lambda is decay constant. So mean life is given, it is 1 year. 1 by lambda is 1 year. Then half life is, so 1 by lambda is 1 year, so it will be 0.693 years. That should be option C. Okay, we shall move on to the next one. Number of atoms in radioactive sample reduces from 1000 to 100 in 2 days. Then number of atoms remaining at the end of 4 days is. So this is also based on the same logic. So 100, 1000 to 100 means it became 1/10 in 2 days. Now after 4 days means another 2 days. So it should become again 1/10. 1/10 means it should become 10. So that should be option B. So it should get reduced to 10. So it should be option B. We shall move on to next one. A nucleus with Z is equal to 92 emits the following in a sequence: alpha alpha, beta beta, alpha 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 alpha, beta beta alpha, beta plus alpha. The Z of the resulting nucleus is. Notice one thing: whenever an alpha particle is released, the Z value reduces by 2. Whenever beta particle is released, Z value increases by 1. Then whenever there is beta plus decay, Z value decreases by 1. Now here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Totally 8 alpha particles are emitted. One alpha particle will take away 2 values of Z. So Z should decrease by 16. Now coming to beta particles, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 beta minus and 2 beta plus. So you can cancel the effect of 2. So you'll be having on net there will be 2 beta particles. So that will increase the Z value by 2. So that will become Z minus 16 plus 2, that is Z minus 14. So Z is 92. 92 minus 14, that will be equal to 78. So the idea behind this is during alpha decay, Z reduces by 2 units, mass number reduces by 4 units, and during beta decay, Z becomes Z plus 1. During, this is for beta decay, and Z becomes Z minus 1 for beta plus decay. So answer should be 78. Yes, we shall move on to next one. The fraction of initial number of radioactive nuclei which remain undecayed after a half-life of the sample is. So after half-life, what fraction of initial number of radioactive nuclei will remain undecayed? So after half-life, n becomes n naught by 2. So it becomes half. So half of them have decayed. Half of them have decayed means half of them are undecayed. So it should be half. So it should be option B. Yes, it should be option B, not option A. Yes. Proceeding further, a radioactive material decays by simultaneous emission of two particles with half-lives 1620 year and 810 year respectively. The time in year after which 1/4 of the material remains is. So after how many years? Only 1/4 of the material remains. Okay, so according to decay law, n is equal to n naught divided by 2 to the power n, where n is number of half-lives, n naught is number of initial number of atoms taken. So we know that lambda for one material is 0.693 divided by half-life t. Now there are two things mixed. So what will happen? Effective lambda will be lambda 1 plus lambda 2. So that will be equal to 0.693 by T1 plus 0.693 by T2. So effective half-life will be given by 1 by T is equal to 1 by T1 plus 1 by T2. That is equal to, for first sample they have given 1620 years, for second one it is 810 years. So now 1 by T is equal to 1620. This is, it will give you 1 plus 2, that is 3. So T is equal to 540 years. So this is the half-life. Now what they are asking is time in year after which 1/4 of the material remains. For 1/4 of the material to remain, for n to become n naught by 4, number of half-lives elapsed should be equal to 2. So time after which that happens is 2 into capital T, that is 2 into 540, that is 1080 years. That is option D. Yes, we shall move on to next one. 80 kg of radioactive material reduces to 10 kg in 1 hour. The decay constant of the material is. So 80 kg becomes 10 kg in 1 hour. So we know that n is equal to n naught divided by 2 to the power n, where n is number of half-lives elapsed. So time elapsed here is 1 hour. So you can also write it as m is equal to m naught divided by 2 to the power n, because number of particles is directly proportional to mass of the sample. So now m is 10, m naught is 80 divided by 2 to the power n. Now this will give you 1 by 8 is equal to 1 by 2 to the power n. So 2 to the power n is equal to 8. That means n is equal to 3. Number of half-lives elapsed is 3. So n is equal to what? T divided by T. That is, this is capital T is half-life. So that they have given it to be 3. So time elapsed is 3 hours. Sorry, 1 hour. Time elapsed is 1 hour divided by T is equal to 3. So you'll get T is equal to 1 by 3 hours. So we need to find decay constant. 1 by 3 hour means they have given answer in seconds. So 1 by 3 hour means, so it is 1200 seconds. So we know that decay constant lambda is 0.693 by T, that is equal to 0.693 divided by 1200. So that turns out to be 5.8 into 10 power minus 4 per second. That is option E. Yes, we shall move on to next one. A radioactive sample S1 having activity 5 microcurie has twice the number of nuclei as another sample S2 which has an activity of 10 microcurie. the half-lives of S1 and S2 can be. So you need to find half-lives of S1 and S2. What they have given is S1 has activity 5 microcurie, which has twice the number of nuclei as another sample S2 whose activity is 10 microcurie. So what they have given is activity of S1 should be equal to half of the activity of S2. So A1 is equal to half of A2, that is what they have given. So A1 is lambda 1 N1, that is equal to half of lambda 2 N2, because activity is lambda N. Now lambda 1 by lambda 2 is equal to N2 by N1 into half, so it makes it lambda 1 by lambda 2 is equal to N2 by 2N1. N2 by 2N1. Now lambda 1 by lambda 2 means this should be T2 by T1. So T1 by T2 is equal to 2N1 by N2. But what they have given is N1 is equal to 2N2. So if I substitute that here, T1 by T2 is equal to 2 into 2N2 divided by N2. So that will turn out to be 4. T1 by T2 is 4. So ratio of their half-life should be 4. So only possible answer is 20 year and 5 year. That is option A. Yes, we shall move on to next one. Ionization power and penetration range of radioactive radiation increases in the order of gamma beta alpha respectively, gamma beta alpha, alpha beta gamma respectively, alpha beta gamma, alpha beta gamma, alpha beta gamma, gamma beta alpha respectively. See, when it comes to ionization power, highest ionization power is for alpha, then beta, then gamma. So it should be alpha, beta, gamma in the first place. Then when it comes to penetration range, highest is for gamma, then beta, then alpha. So it should be option D. Oh, they are asking in the increasing order. So increasing order means it should be option B, not D. It should be option B. So ionization power goes on increasing in this direction, penetration power goes on increasing in this direction. So it should be option B. As we shall move on to next one. Half-life of a radioactive substance A is 4 days. The probability that a nucleus will decay in 2 half-lives is. So probability of nucleus to decay after 2 half-lives is. So after 2 half-lives, so sample remaining will be 1/4. So 1/4 of the sample remains undecayed. So that implies 3/4 has decayed. So 1/4 is remaining, 3/4 has decayed, and what they are asking is what is the probability that nucleus will decay, not remaining, it will decay. So the probability of it getting decayed is 3/4. So that is option B. So that's all about the problems on radioactivity, atoms, nucleus, and dual nature of radiation and matter. Thank you.